This is the Brewers Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Milwaukee Brewers losing not one, not two, but now three in a row. Tonight, losing game 2 of their 3-game set at American Family Field. This one by a final score against the Chicago Cubs of a final of 6-2. Good evening and hello, everyone. Welcome into the Locked On Brewers Postcast edition here on YouTube. Again, thank you for making Locked On your first and listen each and every day. So greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Again, if you're tuning in here on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop a comment, drop a thought. Group therapy session tonight for those in attendance as we recap a 6-2 loss for the Milwaukee Brewers. Now their third in a row, the loss dropping them down to an overall record of 16-18 on the year. And tonight was, I would say, tougher than last night. And I'll explain why. Again, Brewers losing 6-2 to the Chicago Cubs, who just keep pounding the face off of the baseball over the last few weeks here. And especially against these Milwaukee Brewers, they have now scored 16 runs in the last 2 games of this series at American Family Field. And if you were listening to the Brewer game through the radio, through the television, you would have thought it was a home game that Cubs fans have been out in full force, and they have every right to. And it's tough right now because this Milwaukee Brewers team just isn't playing their brand of baseball that we have grown accustomed to over the last year plus. Pat Murphy talking after this game, losing an edge, confidence, words all that he used. That's worrisome if you're a Brewers fan. It's definitely troublesome. Right now in the standings, they're already 5 games back in the NL Central standings with tonight's loss to the Chicago Cubs. Again, a 6-2 loss. And I say tonight was worse than the last few nights, and really for a couple of reasons. And again, it is May 3rd. There is a lot of baseball left in this year. It is a very early part of the season, and I totally understand that. And being 5 games back in the division on May 3rd isn't a death sentence per se, but it's worrisome because the guy that has always been there for the Milwaukee Brewers, the professional pitcher himself, Jose Quintana, going out on the mound tonight. There's been something about him stepping to the mound. Obviously, he's 4-0. Only 2 other Brewers have done it outside of him to begin their career here in Milwaukee, being undefeated in their first 4 starts. You felt a different confidence when he has been on the mound to begin this year. And right off the bat, literally right off the bat, this Brewer team falls into a 1-0 loss. Not only did they fall into another early deficit, but they are the only team in Major League Baseball to not have a win without scoring first in a game this season. 0-12 now when their opponents plate a run before them. They have yet to show any life after any kind of adversity. And tonight was an example of it again tonight. Turner hitting the single in the first inning. And the good thing, though, I guess, if you're looking at this, the Brewers fought back, right? They fought back in that 3rd inning. Terrain with the RBI single, scored Churio after that double. But then we get into our turning point in the game, and we have tons of reaction being poured in right now. And I'm going to get to all of your comments here shortly, but we might as well not waste any time talking about the turning point in this one, the 4th inning in this game.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
We mentioned that the Brewers fought back a little bit, right? The Cubs took a 1-0 lead in that first inning. The Milwaukee Brewers responded in the 3rd inning with the Terrain RBI single, but PCA, man, what a series here in Milwaukee he has had. Pete Crow Armstrong just simply dominating the Milwaukee Brewers pitching. He hit a 3-run home run. And I'll tell you this, there's not many times in Major League Baseball that if your team or the opposing team hits a 3-run home run that you're coming back to win that game, or you're losing that game if you're the team that hits it. And that was on display tonight as he knocked one out. And that was the turning point in that one. That was in the 4th inning. It was a 1-1 tie. That made it 4-1. The Cubs did tack on another one off a Dansby Swanson solo shot, and that was it. It's all that's it. Again, when this Brewers team falls behind, they have yet to find the ability to crawl back and compete in games. And it just was on display once again tonight as they fall to the Cubs by a final score of 6-2. Lots of reaction being poured in over here on YouTube. And again, if you guys are not a subscriber to the Locked On Brewers channel, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll get to all of your comments. Couple things here. Wade, the Chicago White Sox are not a good team. They're not. Absolutely, they are not. The Brewers did beat them 2 out of 3 times. However, fell in game 3, 8-0, and now have lost back-to-back games against the Northsiders, the Chicago Cubs. 10-0 last night and 6-2 tonight. Texas Badger saying the Brewers suck. Can't keep winning with a bunch of bums that can't hit their weight. He also says it's time to trade Yelich while we can. Brewers offense has been really, really bad. And Pat Murphy had mentioned after the game, losing their edge, their confidence. He's confident that they're going to get it back because he knows them. But there is something to monitor there with this Milwaukee Brewers team, certainly with the offense. I don't think anybody's going to disagree that the offense is certainly has a red flag waving. Starting pitching is certainly in there. The bullpen is certainly in there. It's kind of an all-around thing. There's nothing this Milwaukee Brewers team that they currently do that is great. There's nothing, right? Last year we could point to, well, defense. They're outstanding. We could always point to that. We don't have that this year. We could point to last year as the bullpen. We don't have that so far this year. We just don't have that. Had clutch hitting last year. We had timely hitting last year. We just don't have that. I don't know how many times throughout the course of doing the Postcast show here on the Locked On Brewers YouTube channel that we have said, you load the bases up in that first inning, that second inning, you're able to get a timely hit. It just alleviates so much pressure throughout the course of the game, and it sets the tone that you want to set for the game. And this Brewers team this year so far just has not been able to deliver that. Lots of reactions still being poured in. John, 10 years of losing for Brewers and Bucks on deck. Come on, John, cheer up. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. We got to be thankful that the Bucks won a championship in 2021. And the Brewers season is young. I will say that. I did the post-game show last night. Very angry last night for the right reasons, I think. I was valid in those reasons. But I wouldn't, pull the plug on this season right now. But it is definitely worrisome, and rightfully so, right? Like, you're 16-18 on the year. You've now lost 7 out of your last 10. The Brewers almost going 22 innings over the course of that game 3 against the Chicago White Sox to tonight without scoring a run. It's just been pitiful. And the theme of tonight's show was just utterly disappointing because I thought, let me get on my soapbox here real quick and let me talk to you straight. I thought for this Brewers team, when you're playing against the Chicago Cubs, it is a rivalry. Like, if anybody tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. It's a rivalry. Cubs fans don't like Brewers fans. Brewer fans don't like Cubs fans. Craig Counsell goes to Chicago. I know he's not there anymore, but the Wilson Contreras stuff when he was in Chicago, like, these teams just don't like each other. And that's fine. The fan bases, the cities don't like each other. We don't like Chicago. Nothing about it. Traffic sucks. Their food sucks. Every team that plays there, we just don't like. When you lose in the way that they lost Friday night, I'm talking about for the Brewers standpoint, when you lose 10-0 and you get embarrassed because that was an embarrassing performance, and you respond not even 24 hours later with this performance tonight, again, in front of your home crowd after a season-long road trip, and you return home and you get your butt whooped 10-0, and then you respond tonight by scoring 2 measly runs, a solo home run off the bat of Rhys Hoskins in that game, an RBI single. You finish the game with 4 hits and 2 runs. That's what I have a problem with. And I'm not talking about the effort. Again, I'm not questioning effort. I'm not questioning the will or what they're doing, But that is worrisome to me. That is troubling to see. You get embarrassed in the fashion that you did, and then you respond with almost just as bad of a performance with those without minus those 2 runs. It's just been really bad. And Pitter on the YouTube, your food is trash compared to Chicago, pal. Coatmore, it's again, it is what it is. We just don't like you guys. It's okay. It's all right. We're not supposed to. I appreciate you guys tuning in over there on the YouTube channel. And again, as the Brewers fall to the Cubs in game 2 of this 3-game set by a final score of 6-2. The Cubs securing themselves a series win. The Brewers securing themselves a series loss. And with the loss tonight, now have lost 3 in a row in 7 of their last 10 games. We'll get to the player of the game and what you'll be talking about tomorrow. But first, it's time to talk about our sponsors. Did you know that your Amazon Fire TV is also an Xbox? It's kind of crazy when you think about it because I had no clue about this, but you can turn your TV into gaming and an entertainment hub with the Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you are ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. And speaking of favorite shows, I have a lot of favorite shows. I use all kinds of different services, Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, all those good stuff. The Amazon Fire 4K stick does everything all in one. Not only can you play the games, you can stream all of your favorite content. I have one remote. I have 3 buttons, and I'm on my favorite channel or streaming service with the click of 3 buttons. It's super simple. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV locked on to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Head on over to amazon.com/Fire TV locked on. The Milwaukee Brewers falling to the Cubs in game 2 here at American Family Field. This one by a final score of 6-2. The Brewers' overall record now 2 games under 500 at 16-18. Still lots of reaction pouring in here on the YouTube channel. And again, I appreciate each and every one of you. Even though some of you on here appear to be Cubs fans, I still appreciate you guys tuning in to the Locked On Brewers Postcast edition here on the Locked On Brewers channel. And again, thank you for making Locked On Brewers your first and last listen each and every day. My name is Brandon Snide. You can go ahead and follow me over on Twitter at Brandon_Snide. Travesta over on YouTube. The whole MLB don't have an answer for PCA and Tucker. They have been fantastic. Again, I'm a Milwaukee Brewer fan, and I'm not discrediting what the Chicago Cubs have been doing. They have been the best offense in baseball to begin this season. Kyle Tucker has arguably been the best player in all of baseball. And you mix that in with a good manager, and you mix that in with good situational baseball, you're going to get good outcomes. Now, the thing with the Cubs, and again, we have yet to see that here in Milwaukee, is their bullpen would be the one question mark I would have if I was a Cubs fan, but they still have time to figure it out. The Brewers are now playing catch up, 5 games back against the Chicago Cubs already in the beginning of this season. And it just isn't looking good for the Milwaukee Brewers because, to make matters worse, not only did the Brewers lose the series here against the Chicago Cubs, and tonight game 2, a 6-2 final, but their schedule gets even tougher as the year and as May goes on. Excuse me, not the year. As May goes on. So you welcome in Houston. You got one more game with the Chicago Cubs. You got Minnesota, Cleveland, Tampa Bay. Those are your next handful of games, and your May schedule just gets tougher and tougher. We'll see where they are on the injury front. There's still some things being worked out. Brandon Woodruff still yet to make another rehab assignment. So we'll see exactly where the Milwaukee Brewers go pitching-wise as far as health goes, and a couple other guys that Pat Murphy gave updates on. DL Hall included in that. They're ramping him up to be either a long reliever or a starter here soon. So, again, some things to be positive about, some things to be encouraged about, I suppose. But right now, we're holding on for dear life. Holding on for dear life, especially when your manager goes at the end of the game in his post-game press conference and talks about losing the confidence and losing that edge. I think if you're a Milwaukee Brewers fan, that's worrisome. You know, it had an opportunity to have a good road trip out there in San Francisco and St. Louis and Chicago against the White Sox. You weren't able to capitalize on a few of those games where you had those in your grasps. They let them slip. And then you come home and now you have an opportunity to kind of make a statement series, you know, in this series, at least against the Chicago Cubs, who have been red hot, and you just failed to do it, right? You lose Friday night 10-0, as we talked about, and you lose tonight by a final of 6-2. The player of the game for tonight, newsflash, it's not a Milwaukee Brewer.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
PCA, we just got done talking about him, as a couple of you have mentioned him over on the YouTube comments. Breaking a 1-1 tie there in the fourth inning. And you felt good if you were the Milwaukee Brewers, because Quintana had given up that early run in the first. The Brewers responded in the third. They tied it up. It was one apiece. The very, very next inning, you allow a couple of guys on base, and he puts it over the right center wall. And again, that was, if you're a Milwaukee Brewers fan, and this isn't, I'm not being negative. I'm not being, trying to let anybody down here. But when they get behind 2, 3, 4 runs in any game, it just feels like it's over. Feels like it's over right now. And that's the question of, where is this offense? Christian Yelich, again, a no-show. Joey Ortiz has been abysmal at the plate. Jackson Chourio, he did have a nice hit tonight. He's, you got to get him going. Bryce Terrain had the RBI single. That was good to see from Bryce. But overall, the inconsistencies have been too consistent, if that makes any sense. They've been consistently inconsistent, and that's the issue with this offense right now, and that's what you're seeing on display tonight against the Cubs with the 6-2 loss. So you got to be able to create some offense to give these pitchers. You got to be able to have some sort of ground. We talked about it last night. When Quinn Priester comes into a game, he's already facing a 2-0 deficit, and Pat Murphy's talking about, well, he hasn't been in this situation. He hasn't pitched in this environment. Well, now he's pitching in this environment. He's down 2-0. And Jose Quintana, who gets the start tonight for the Milwaukee Brewers, who was coming into this game 4-0, has been your guy, has been kind of the anchor for this team. When you see him get punched in the mouth to begin the game, and it was only a 1-0, hit, but still, if you're a fan and we're shrugging our shoulders like, good Lord, here we go again. I mean, what do you think they're thinking, right? Like, I know they're professional players, but it just is what it is. David over on YouTube, it is dejecting that if the Brewers are down 3 or more runs, they certainly can't rally. It's what it feels like. That's just, and I shouldn't even say that's what it feels like. That's what it is. That's what it is. I mean, that's just the reality of this offense right now. Unfortunately, that's the reality of this offense. Another comment: every game, it seems we continue to show the front office why not fixing the shortstop / third base was a bad idea. When you lose a guy like Willy Adames, not only are you losing that production at the plate and on the field on the defensive side, you're losing so much more in that clubhouse. What was that loss like? Again, we brought up the question. First off, are the Brewers a bad team? That question is something that is going to be answered obviously as the course of the season goes on. But they never filled that hole. That was a huge hole to fill, and it's not fair to ask Joey Ortiz to step in and produce, what Willy Adames did for the last 4 years here in Milwaukee. It's just not fair. It's not fair to do that, and we're finding that out the hard way, that's exactly what we're dealing with right now. Keep the comments coming. Drum, I feel like the Brewers can be an elite team if they get more elite talent. Yeah, most certainly. And I think what you're seeing now with this Brewers team is that guys that aren't ready to step up to those roles that we're asking them to step into aren't just ready, right? They're just not ready one way or another, and we're asking them to do too much, and we're stretching ourselves thin trying to ask these guys to be somebody that they're just not ready to be. It's just the reality of it. And that's what happens when, you go into a season. I don't want to say that Matt Arnold didn't prepare this year. I think Matt Arnold does a fine job with what he's given to do, right? Jose Quintana, we talked about that late offseason acquisition. He's been your rock outside of tonight as he takes a loss in his 6-2 game. But he's been, the one positive for this team in this early part of the year. So again, it's, yeah, you would like to see them go out and get player X or player Y, but the reality of it is they're just not going to. They're just not going to. And this is kind of what we're dealing with. And we'll see exactly where this team is come trade deadline. I don't know where they're going to be. We got more comments on there. I smell a sweep. Very, very possible. Yeah, if the Brewer, and I said this last night, if the Brewers get swept by the Cubs, there's going to be a lot of red flags because the schedule for the Brewers gets tougher. The schedule for the Cubs gets easier. We had talked about how hard it is to get into the postseason as a wild card team, right? When you have teams like out of the NL East and the NL West, like it is hard to get that second, first or second wild card. It's going to be, it's tough. And the Brewers have been on the, beneficiary side of winning the division and getting into the playoffs, but we'll see exactly where they are as this year goes on. And it's just been, I don't want to give this team an excuse. I don't want to say, well, this is the reason why, but since the start of this season, since spring training, we have talked about injuries. And again, I'm not saying that's the reason why this team is where they're at right now. But when you're asking Elvin Rodriguez to come up and make starts and Craig Yoho to step in, maybe when he's not ready, guys, and maybe talk about Joey Ortiz. Maybe these guys aren't ready or not capable to do that just yet in their careers. We talked about Tyler Alexander last night. Like, we're asking a lot of guys to do a lot of things that they haven't done or proven to be able to do yet. And we'll see exactly if that pays off for the Milwaukee Brewers. It did not pay off tonight in the 6-2 loss against the Chicago Cubs. Game 3 set for 1:10 tomorrow over there at American Family Field. Show note, no post-game show tomorrow. We'll be back Monday next week with the Brewers podcast here on the Locked On YouTube channel for the Locked On Brewers. My name is Brandon Snide. You can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Brandon_Snide. Wherever you get podcasts, you can always get Locked On Brewers content. Just search Locked On Brewers, or you can subscribe here on the YouTube channel and get all of our content right here. My thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in. My thanks again to all of you over there on the YouTube stream who have poured your thoughts. It was a group therapy session tonight as the Brewers fall to the Cubs by a final score of 6-2. Now 16-18 on the season for the Brewers. They'll try to salvage Game 3 tomorrow over at American Family Field. Thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in, and thank you for always making Locked On Brewers your first and last listen each and every day. Win, lose, or draw, as we always say, go Brewers.